bills and dreams. Ain't no shame in our game. And whether you're in this transition because you like what you do and you want to build a business, or you want to transition to full-time entrepreneurship, dualpreneurism is the way to go. And so these virtual masterminds are to give you what you need to be successful as a dualpreneur or entrepreneur. Today's session is about breaking business barriers. Many of us are in the people business, right? Way we make money is by being around people, whether it is a service industry, whether it is entertainment industry. And if you are in the people business, this quarantine has done a tremendous damage to your cash flow. And it requires for us, we talked about pivoting it. We talked about how we need to reinvent ourselves. But there's a lot of us that are suffering in silence because we think that we're going through this alone, and we're not. There is many people that are going through a very hard transition dealing with this coronavirus, the pandemic, and the quarantine, especially my people that are also in the service industry, in the people business, and requires you to be around people. And so I had to reach out to my baby brother, who I haven't seen in years upon years. In Atlanta, we used to just bump into each other
all the time.
Just in Atlanta, like, hey, but I know you, Stevie, I've known you for a long time. And we just clicked the first time we met each other when I was back in the credit union days.
Yeah.
And we just really clicked, and you've just been always a genuine, sweet spirit. You just had the sweetest, humble spirit. And, you know, you were in the NFL, you were in Canada with what's that, CFL or something? I don't know. With the
CFL.
Canada League. And you know, you were doing all this stuff, and you were just the sweetest, humblest person. And you had a nerve to be fine. And you cute with dimples. And at the time you had dreads. You had dreads down your back.
Wow, that's a long time.
That was a long time ago.
We definitely have known one another for a long time.
Yeah, and I just appreciate that. I told everybody, I just went into my text messages and called on my peeps and said, hey, I need y'all to share with my peeps in Dualpreneur. And I just appreciate you saying, yeah, let's do it. Because, you know, you're an actor now. I've seen you in some episodes of some shows. You have a nonprofit organization. We've worked together with your nonprofit. And you're just doing some amazing things. But I know that because you are in the people industry, like being an actor, you have to be around people. Sports, you got to be around people. And everything is shut down. And so I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and helping us to understand how we can break these business barriers and get some motivation of why we need to push through. So, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself and, you know, share some insight on breaking these business barriers.
Absolutely. First of all, I want to tell you, thank you for having me on your platform. And I want to give a shout out to everybody who's listening. And hopefully, you know, you can take the meat and leave the bones. You know, I'm not here to be right. I'm just here to be righteous. And I want to share information that I think will help people transcend, especially during a time like this when so many people are moving in fear. So thank you for what you're doing with this platform, Tara, because we need more, especially melanated people, I'd like to say, having this type of information and energy given to our people, because we haven't been given truth, which is why I think we've been still in bondage. So Stevie Baggs Jr., I'm born and raised in Pompano Beach, Florida. I graduated from Bethune-Cookman University with a degree in international business. And I was a 3-time All-American there. I played 10 years in the NFL and CFL. And I'm currently an actor, author, speaker. I've written 2 books. One book is called Greater Than the Game, where I'm talking about teaching people how to be greater than the game that society has been playing on our people, and how to be greater than our occupation. You know, sometimes our worth is based on our occupation, our pocketbook, our bank account. And you know, if your worth is based on that alone, you'll always be broke and broken, because that can always change. The second book I wrote called Woke, which I'm so proud. I got to show everybody this one. Woke is a dictionary for the conscious mind, and woke is essentially breaking down etymology, linguistics, semantics. Excuse me. And these words, within words that we speak, we all know, people who come from a church background, that the power of the tongue speaks life or death, and you start saying things, and these things start manifesting in your life. So moving forward, actor, author, speaker, private coach for health, wellness, wealth. So health, wellness, and then wealth, wellness, and then consciousness. Run a nonprofit called the CETA Foundation, which stands for Creating Empowerment Through Autonomy. Creating Empowerment Through Autonomy. We had 9 after-school programs in the city of Atlanta. Guess what? They're all closed down. All of our employees, no work. I was supposed to speak at 3 schools, 3 universities in March, all gone. I have a commencement that I was going to speak at in the end of May, gone, right? So I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, at first I was like, just in a panic, right? I'm into words, so I started thinking about how powerful these words are that we speak. The coronavirus means crown, so it starts with the mind. Sometimes you can give yourself a disease or a dis-ease in your mind that's not even impacting you. You gave it to yourself. Well, what happened was, I started going into the same pandemic, the pandemonium, and the panic. And the reason why I'm such a proponent for health and wellness is because anytime you have a emotional dis-ease, it causes physical disease. So you take the dash out of disease. Well, the same thing with economics. If you have an economic dis-ease, it causes stress, which will cause a physical disease. So you keep going on in every area of your life, and now next thing you know, your stress is bombarded you. Your stress is giving you a heart attack, a heartache, which that we can talk about that too. Which there's 1.4 million people that die in America from heart-related issues, but they don't shut down McDonald's and Burger King and Popeye Chicken and Church's Chicken, right? Well, we need to think about that. So, the one way I started to break the barrier was to take care of my temple, for real, for real. And when I say take care of my temple for real, I'm talking about sitting still and not just listening to whatever your God is, but hearing from the universal God on not just ways to get information on how to do business, but I'll tell you folks, if you don't take care of your temple first, and if you're not a good steward of your temple, how will you ever be able to take care of your business? How will you ever be able to take care of your children or relationships and friendships if you don't take care of the thing that you got for free? So I often ask people, Tara, and all the folks listening, what's your credit score with God? Right? Because you got your body for free. So these tonic thoughts that we've been given from the news, I tell people that the news stands for North, East, West, and South. The news runs the airwaves. So if I tell you to go home and you're on quarantine and don't move and you're watching the news, and the only thing the news is projecting is fear and panic and turbulence. Now your body is not in homeostasis. Your body doesn't have any balance. So why would my bank account have any balance? Right? Why would my business have any balance? So I had to go and find a way to get some peace. I'll take a walk. I'll go to Stone Mountain, and they say, you know, I thought the parks were closed. There was more people at Stone Mountain than I ever saw in my life. But the park wasn't closed. I go take a walk. I ride my bike. I connected with nature, and so that was the first thing. Then, excuse me, the second thing I had to do to break some of these barriers was I had to go get around some of my mentors and call them and find out, hold on, how did you do this? What are you doing during these times? Different colleagues and different peers, and start to kind of barter not only information, but barter some of our business services so that we can connect and give people, you know, some real hope. Because people are feeling hopeless right now. And I mean, we had to go feed some people at Pittman Park with the 100. I mean, 100 Black men of America. We had to go feed these people who aren't homeless, but they were hungry during this time. No food, no. So then you have to put things in perspective and look at it, folks, and say, on my worst day is somebody else's paradise. Because your business slowed down, you stop working, the income didn't come in. But hold on, man. There's somebody out here who can't even eat. There's somebody whose lights are not on right now. So you start putting things into perspective, and then once again you sit still. So moving forward, I really want to talk about vision, passion, and purpose. Y'all, a lot of people walk around with perfect eyesight, but they have no vision. They have no vision of what they want to attain or achieve in this life. Now, we have 24 hours in a day. You got 8 hours to sleep, you have 8 hours to work, and they tell you have 8 hours for everything else. How I look at it is the way the world was, especially corporate people. You sit in traffic, you eat your food, you haven't even taken your children to school, all these things. So what ends up getting left out inside of that 24 hours? You sleep. The number one killer in the world that we're told is heart issues, cardiovascular. But the number one killer in the world, folks, is sleep deprivation. And if you don't believe me, all you got to do is ask Steve Jobs, who died at 56 years old with $9 billion in his account. And he was so busy chasing paper as opposed to chasing purpose, as opposed to taking care of the temple. And I'm not on a soapbox, but I'm saying to you that if you're chasing paper and not chasing purpose, you gotta realign it, in my humble opinion. So what are you doing with these 24 hours in a day? You have to make sure you're taking care of your temple first. So that's my health skill that I want to talk about, because so many people don't even know the numbers on the fruits and vegetables and what they mean. Terry, you know, we've been teaching these young people that for years, and their families. And it amazes me to this day that we live in a society, 5 power structures: political, social, economic, education, and spiritual. These are the 5 power structures we have in this system. We found out that politics was politricks because it's right wing, left wing, but it's one bird. We found out that education really wasn't meant to educate us, yet assess us and separate us. Oh, you're a magnet student. Oh, you're AP. Oh man, you're autistic. You're ADHD. You're SL. So they separate you, right? Economics. These people have never taught us about true economics in this system. Never. If I ask everybody here on that's watching, what year did the FICO score come out? Most of you can't tell me. I was speaking to a group at Wells Fargo of about 60 to 100 people. They're all Wells Fargo employees, and I asked that same question. Not one of them told me that FICO is named after 2 men, Fair and Isaac. It's the Fair and Isaac Company. And these 2 guys started this thing because at the time when the FICO came out, 85% of the labor force in America, melanated people controlled it. So they said, we got to create another system to offset these people's trades and their skills. We had all the skills. Now, if you look at our people now, you can't find a brother that could change a tire, let alone put jumper cables on a car. You know, and this is strategic. They've taken trades out of the schools, which is education as well. So I'm saying all that to say this. You look at socially, we've been disconnected socially because we've been disconnected socially before COVID. You're in this organization, you live in this neighborhood, you're a part of this class, we separated. And the last one, and the most important one to me, is the spiritual. Because everything that we see in the visible is controlled by the invisible. Everything that we start to recognize that, especially for melanated people, I have to talk to our people first, because you jump higher than everybody else in the world, but you won't elevate your mind. You run faster than everybody in the world, but you still behind in the race. Your hair is perpendicular, but your spirit and your consciousness is flat. Now, I've been on TV, and I tell people all the time, television is tell-lie-vision. It's telling you a lie, and a vision is not real. I had my own show called Match Made in Heaven, Tyler Perry for Better or Worse, Focus, Will Smith, you name it. Go look at the IMDb. And I promise you, folks, all of that is smoke and mirrors. And once we realize and recognize that, then we'll be able to say, oh, hold on, I can separate fiction and facts. The fact is that we're the most powerful people in the world, yet we're the most oppressed and depressed because of our social conditioning and social programming. So once you unlearn and relearn that, you can break any barrier. So the reason I love your company, Tara, and this platform of being a dual entrepreneur, I don't even know if I said it right, but I think I said it right. Dual entrepreneur.
It's dualpreneur.
Yeah. I said dual entrepreneur. So like ultra, dualpreneur.
Like education.
Right, education. But so this is and Tara, please, if you have to interject or you have an idea that comes, just come, because it's more difficult for me doing it like this when I can't feel the energy of the people. So I love it, because I always tell people I'm an octopus. An octopus has 8 arms or 8 different limbs. An octopus has 9 brains and 3 hearts. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
The reason why that's important is because if the octopus has 3 hearts and your heart has been broken, I got another one to go. If one of your incomes or your sources of income get cuts off, right? Now I have 7 more to keep going. If you attack my mind, Corona, meaning crown, if you attack my mind and you attack my ideas, I can still move forward, because I have more brain power. I have more mental capacity. So, for me, that represents to me what this business is about, what your platform is about, being a dualpreneur, because you have to be multifaceted inside of this system today, especially if you look like us. So I really feel better to answer questions for people than to just talk, because I don't.
I love the one you broke it down with that, and I always believe that the educational system is outdated. One, not only does it segregate, but it was created to create, and it was industrial. It was in the industrialization when the schools were created, right? Because they were creating employees. They were creating people to be good employees. So if you got great grades and you came to school on time and you did everything you need to do and you were the valedictorian, that positioned you to be an excellent employee. That's why a lot of the children that are CD students excel at being entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
But if you were a valedictorian or you were whatever, you are probably a really good employee, and you probably want to continue to be an employee, because that's how our educational system still is today. And so it hasn't shifted to the entrepreneurial mindset, the creative mindset that the kids are doing right now. These kids are more creative. They're more, disruptive. They're more disruptive. And the reason why they're disruptive is because the system that we keep pushing them in is not conducive to where they are mentally and with their capabilities. And as long as we continue to have a school system that is trying to push out employees and not allow these children to learn how to think for themselves and have an you can have an entrepreneurial mind and still have a job and still be an employee. But I would rather run a company full of employees with entrepreneurial mindsets than to have employees with a slave mentality.
Absolutely. That's what they call you. When you go to church, they call you a sheep. Welcome you. This is my flock. You are my sheep. Because I want to farm you to go in this one direction, right? School, they farm you to go in this one direction of being an employee, right? And so if you go to the animal kingdom, ask me who wants to trade places with a sheep. Not many. So once again, we have to unlearn and relearn. Same thing in the education system. We have been taught since day one that you're a slave. You're a derivative of a slave. You've been taught that Christopher Columbus discovered America. So we know that's a lie, right? So what else have they lied to us about? We never got taught about Mansa Musa and Halam Alasi. We never got taught that we represent the most opulent people to ever walk on the face of this planet. So then in your subconscious, you continue to do slave things because that's all that you've been taught. So you manifest that inside of everything that's in your subconscious, right? And that's a powerful thing for me, because when you're talking about entrepreneurship, there's no more innovative people than us. I was looking at that Madam C.J. Walker documentary the other night. I'm like, wow, look at what this sister did. That's only that you can only do that when you possess melanin, in my humble opinion. And like, let me tell you something. We're not fighting a war on race. We're fighting a war on ideas. We're fighting a war on economics, and we're fighting a war on classism. Because see, we live in a system where if you control the money, you control the narrative. I'm gonna give you another example of that. All right, that's right in our face. If I say to you, Tara, what does octo mean? Octo means what?
8, right?
Everything. Octagon, octopus, 8. If I tell you nuevo, nueve, and nif, that's 9.
Right.
If I tell you deca is 10,
10. Mm-hmm.
So why is November 11 and December 12 and October 10th month? This is very important, people, because you got a month called July, which is named after Julius Caesar. You got a month named August, which was named after Caesar Augustus. And the reason why this is important is because, well, it's important for a number of reasons, but the reason and the point I'm making right now is that if you control the mind and the narrative at that time, you control the mind. If you control the narrative, you control the mind. If you control the man, you control the mind, you control the man. So what happens is now we've got into this system of we're doing this, we're living our lives this way. But is that the truth? Is that the true reality? You know, Easter just passed, and I'm always telling people Easter bunnies don't lay eggs, chickens lay eggs.
Right.
But tradition, we'll hold on to tradition and let go of truth. We'll hold on to religion and let go of righteousness. Same thing in our businesses. We'll hold on to these traditions of what people told us that business should be, instead of innovatively creating our own way of doing business and getting out of a cookie cutter. Well, marketing is just this way, and advertising and partnerships. And no, we're the most innovative people in the world. So it's time for us to leverage that and say, let's create something on our own. Right?
Stevie, I love that because what's his name? What's the DJ's name?
DJ D Nice.
D Nice. So we've known D Nice forever. Like,
right.
We knew D Nice before y'all knew D Nice, right? And so what D Nice said was, instead of doing it the way I traditionally do it, I'm gonna do something different. And it could have just been a fluke, but that fluke for him, and he was just trying to give back, right? And that's the law of prosperity. The first law of prosperity is to give, because you can't receive with a closed fist. His whole heart and his whole being was, let me give my talents or something without him even thinking I can make a lot of money off of it. So he decides to give that, and it goes from like 10,000 people to 150,000 people just watching at one time of him doing something that he loves because he just wants to entertain, to a point where Michelle Obama hops on and he gets on. So he's going to make more money from his initial marketing strategy, which wasn't even a marketing strategy. It was just something that he just wanted to do to give back.
But resources are the enemy of imagination. Sometimes when we sit back and we get full, we don't have that same drive and that same resourcefulness, right? And that's why I tell people it's about resourcefulness, not resources. If you ask the average person why they don't have something, they're going to tell you, man, I didn't have the resources. But if you're going to ask a celestial consciousness, a higher vibratory being, they're going to tell you, I needed to leverage my resourcefulness. And who's more resourceful than us? 100 years ago, 80% of people that look like us in America couldn't read or write in English. But you called us lazy. You can't.
Okay.
Right? So for me, that's why I said it's good to sit still and be able to hear. Because let me tell you something, Tara. Have you ever been misunderstood? I know I have. Have anybody watching it? Have you been misunderstood? I know I have. But I found out that misunderstanding is not a word. Misunderstanding is an event. Understanding came looking for you, but you missed it. And why did you miss it? Because you've been standing underneath someone else's ideology. And it's not until you get an overstanding and you get like an overview of, that's what that is. Oh man, now you start to find out that, man, I got to get out of this box. How did I even get in the box in the first place? Then once you get an overstanding, you get the most important standing, which is an inner standing. And that's an interpersonal truth of not only just your self-worth, but the things that you can accomplish and achieve if you have the right vision. And that's why I say people have vision, passion, and purpose, but the vision is based off of someone else's vision for your life, like we talked about in education. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I got people walking around with a PhD, but they have no GOD. You got a master's degree, but you have no law and no knowledge of the master. You didn't get your bachelor's degree by yourself. You had company, right? So for me, when I started recognizing I don't need a slave master degree when I got a grandmaster degree. And it's not about not going in this realm and in this system and being able to ebb and flow and being able to maneuver. You know, je parle français un petit peu. J'ai étudié français à l'école, university. So I had to learn French to get an international business degree. Okay, cool. But I still have to also lift the veil up to see what's really going on. And once we do that, now we're able to do and live and ebb and flow and say, well, this makes sense to me. This doesn't make sense to me. This seems like programming. And I'll ask you and everybody else on here, has the government, do you feel that the government overall tells us the truth or tells us lies?
They're never going to tell us the truth.
So why are
we can't even handle the truth that if we can't handle the real truth that they will not tell us. Now, they're not going to tell us the truth because it's not to their benefit, but it's also the real truth is not going to be to our benefit to know either, unfortunately. But we have to be, like you said, have an overstanding that we are being lied to or that information is not being revealed.
Absolutely. And I found this out by playing in the NFL, being on TV, making good money, boom, boom, boom. That number one, money is not power. And your education is not power, but information is power. Mm-hmm. And you just said that word. And if I got good information, I have good power. If I have bad information, I have bad power. Who has been displaying more bad power than us? But yet we possess the most good power, but we display the most bad power. Why do you think this is? Well, to me, the end of your comfort zone is the beginning of your life. Mm-hmm. Now, we're in this place where the earth is purging. We're in a place where your spirit, your body, your family, everything is purging, right? So now you got to unify. Mm-hmm. In the middle of the word, and the word community is unity. But we don't live in communities. We live in neighborhoods. When you go to Disney World has their own police. They have their own money. They got Disney dollars. They have their own education. You got to go to school before you work there. That's a community, right? We don't live in communities. We live in neighborhoods. And what do I do with a hood? I put the hood over your head to hide the truth from you. Okay, so you don't see everything that's going on. And it's not until I take that hood off that I go back to getting an overstanding and an understanding of what's happening. But how many people that look like you who are celebrated and stamped by the system come tell you the truth? Come tell you the truth about the food you're eating,
You do realize that the more people that tell the truth, have you noticed that they die all of a sudden?
Yeah,
Have you ever
you know,
heard,
oh,
you know that truth tellers all of a sudden die or become
mhm,
missing? You know,
mhm,
so they're, you know, and it's, I'm not going to be a conspiracy theory. Yes, I am. So, you know, just pull it out there, is that you have to really understand those that have been that try to enlighten or to tell
mhm.
the truth. There's always going to be someone that is going to try to stifle them. And I love what you said about we got to have the vision, right? Have you ever noticed that when you have a vision and you share the vision with your family and friends, there's always someone that will try to stifle the vision?
Yeah,
They were like, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, girl, you just need to get your government job. Or you just need to stay at your
absolutely.
job or whatever. But you are given that vision for a reason. If you're given a vision to start a business, sometimes it's not meant for you to tell those other people because they don't want you to succeed, because they didn't get the vision and they're not going to succeed. So why would they even want you to surpass where they are?
Right,
So sometimes you have to get in a community, like you said, like dualpreneur community, so that with people that have vision, it may not be your vision, but because I have my own vision, I understand that you have vision and I support you with your vision.
right.
Versus being in a family neighborhood where you tell your vision and they're like, no, it's not going to work. It didn't work for me. Oh, I tried that. I've been in that network marketing. I did that. It failed for me. And they try to stifle it. And that is that. I love that you said the community versus the neighborhood, because that's what we're dealing with in business, right? You
Hmm,
can be in
hmm.
groups and the groups can be a neighborhood. They're going to they're going to share their propaganda. Have you ever been in a group where you can't share anything, you can't ask anything, they control everything, but you in this group, it's their neighborhood, it's their Mr. Rogers neighborhood, right? And
Exactly.
they will only share their propaganda until you get into a group that is a community where you can ask questions, you can share posts, you can do certain
Yes,
things. And that's what you
yes.
have to determine as an entrepreneur, is if you're going to continue to be a part of a neighborhood that is not going to support you and try to hide things from you, or you're going to be in a community that's going to support you, give you the resources so you can be resourceful, you can execute your resourcefulness within.
Right, right. The tribe mentality is a mentality that we don't have because I've been taught to hate myself. I go back to education. If I tell you you're a slave since kindergarten, then the first thing you're gonna do when you look in the mirror is hate what you look at. Now, if I tell you your worth and your value, now you're not gonna believe that story. I'm gonna believe that I came from Mansa Musa. I came from the Timbuktu, the Mali Empire. I came from that. I came from Marcus Garvey. I came. So now you have a certain level of confidence that you walk around with, as opposed to, oh man, I'm broke, I'm sick, I'm hurt, I'm a thug, and the only way I'm gonna get out of this situation is be an athlete, artist, entertainer, dope boy, stripper. When I talk to these children at the after school program, those are the only way they see out. But most people will believe anything, especially if it reinforces what they want to be true. You see what I'm saying? That's why we got to unlearn and relearn, because the hardest thing to do is get rid of an idea that's been well planted in the head.
Mhm.
So as a truth teller and an agitator, which I am, listen. If I was afraid of the evil that this system has done and could potentially do to me, I would have been out of here. Because guess what? I've been telling the truth on them,
Mhm.
and we need more. We need more of this, and that's why, once again, the end of your comfort zone is the beginning of your life. When you start to get squeezed, you'll really see what's inside. Adversity doesn't just build your character; it reveals your character.
Mhm.
When yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
And that's what's happening right now, is that this adversity right now that we're dealing with the quarantines, with the, you know, economic crisis that we're dealing with right now, it is revealing a lot of people's character. It is revealing a lot of people's resourcefulness or lack thereof.
Right.
And it's shaking them up. It's that heart attack. You know, you're supposed to eat right and exercise or whatever, and then all of a sudden you have a heart attack. Now you have no choice. You have to
Mm,
change or something. And so we talked about this offline, that because you are in the people business, you know, you're an
hmm.
actor, you got to be around people. You're an athlete, got to be around people. Got a nonprofit, got to be around people. We talked about how your virtual side, you never really paid attention to it because it was a lost leader at the time. It wasn't making any money. Yep. So now you have to shift that and turn that virtual into some form of a money maker, and turn that lost leader into a cash flow leader.
Yes, absolutely. I had to do it, and you know, it's difficult for me, and I have a certain brand, right? I have people who follow me, and it's still like, you've seen my books, you know I'm legitimate, you see me in the community, and people still want to question, like, man, so what are you gonna offer again? But I do, man, I want a blue check on Instagram too. What are you gonna offer again? Man, I want my son to get in the NFL, or what are you going? So they ask these questions, and they see the fruits of your labor. Because you can tell a tree by its fruit and a fruit by its tree. You know, when we play, we always just get on the coaches who are overweight and telling us to run sprints. I'm like, bro, can you do this? Could you ever do this? Because what I'm seeing right now, it doesn't add up. But money is cowardly, okay? Money goes where it's safe. Because if money wasn't cowardly, it would go to the people who will really help the people. You get what I'm saying? Money is cowardly. It goes where it's safe. That's something that I had to learn. And then when I stopped chasing paper, once again, I was able to chase purpose. So if you look at purpose, it's something that's always in front of you, and money is nothing but energy. So if I'm chasing my purpose, money gotta follow, because money's energy. So purpose first, then the paper. But then now if I chase the paper and I get the paper, now I stop moving. That's why I just said earlier, resources are the enemy of your imagination. Because if I take your imagination away, now you have no vision. You can't be a visionary. You can't go create new ideas and new products and new this and that to draw the people in. If you have social entrepreneurship, to me, the most important entrepreneurship is social entrepreneurship. It's based off of having a certain level of merit and a certain level of vision to be able to help the people. And if you have that, you'll never be broke. You'll never be broke in. Because as long as you're planting those seeds, there's always manifestation in that. Yeah, to me.
I agree, is that if you continue to plant seeds, you may not, like I keep telling people, if you keep giving to certain people, it doesn't mean they're going to give back to you. That is just that's a universe. That is a dance that you play with the universe. As long as you feed into the universe and you give, you're naturally going to receive. That's just the law of prosperity, because you can't receive with a closed fist. If you're stingy with your time, if you're stingy with your knowledge, if you're stingy with your money, then the universe cannot give you more, because you're going to lose it all with the fist. So when you give and you open up, you open yourself to receive, and you get to a point where you want to close your fist because you're receiving so much, right? And so a lot of people who have a lot of money, they didn't really chase the money. They chased their purpose and their dreams, and then they got the money.
Bingo.
They did, just like what you said. And so there's a lot of us that are, oh, I want to get in this business because I want to make a lot of money. I promise you, you're going to fail.
Every time.
But if you want to get into business because you're passionate about what you do, you love what you do, the money will follow.
Easily. Listen, all of humanity, Tara, is looking for, they're in search of it: truth, justice, beauty, and peace. And we're on this eternal search for these attributes. And, you know, as we're searching for truth, we only search for that because we believe the lies that have been stored in our mind. The whole time we're searching, we didn't know that the truth was already inside of you. That's why I say you live 3 types of lives. You live your public life, you live your private life, and you live your secret life. And your secret life is just you and your creator, you and your maker, whatever you want to call it. But your secret life is where you look within instead of looking without. And when you look within, you're able to find your integrity, intellect, your inspiration, your intimacy, my gosh, anything that's I-N, that's high vibratory, it starts with an N for a reason. I am, because you have to look within instead of looking without. I don't need to buy a Bentley. I'm a walking Bentley. But so many people have Bentley entitlement for Honda Civic stewardship.
Come on now.
You weren't even good steward on the work, on the job you had. And then I got to get back to the etymology, because I want to tap into the etymology before we go. You say, I work a job. I want a job. Job in Hebrew means persecution. So you want to be persecuted, or is you saying that Karasaki, whatever the Asian dude name, get rich poor dad, jumping out of bed just over broke. That's persecution. But now when you have work and you have hard work instead of hard work is something that you have an affinity for. And I'm gonna do it no matter what. That's when you find wealth. Cause see, I'm not light. I mean, I'm not lit. I'm light. I'm not rich. I'm wealth. I'm not just healed. I'm health. I'm not intelligent. I'm intelligence. I'm not deep. I'm depthness. When you start looking at yourself like that, no pandemic, no epidemic, no business shutdown, no economic collapse, no recession can hold you back, because your worth and your value is now based on something that's celestial. It's based on something that's supernatural. It's not based on the just what we see. But I promise you, folks, if you take care of the thing that I gave you first, says the universal God, which is your temple, I promise you, and I'm not a pastor, and I'm not even really religious, but I know that when you have values based on things that are inarguable, like gravity, you think gravity care about your religion, your bank account? Fall off this building, you gonna know gravity is real. Mm-hmm. If you think you bad, and if you think you're self-created, tell your heart to stop right now. You can't do it. So now, I don't care what you believe in, how you pray. Once we find out a common ground, like gravity and oxygen, we come together on something and say, man, no matter what you said, Tara, I'm going to take the meat and leave the bones if it doesn't apply to me. And I'm going to add these tools to my tool belt to create a better life for the world. Not just myself. Because if I'm going to create a better life for myself, then essentially I'll create a better life for humanity. Yeah. You know?
So before we go, and we're going to open it up to some questions for the people that are in here, but how can people get in contact with you, follow you, get your book, work with you, especially if they have a child that, wants to get into the NFL or, coaching, and they need some physical health and wellness coaching? How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, everything is my name, Stevie Baggs Jr, JR. So on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook is Stevie Baggs Jr. And let me tell you, I just use that as an example, because if I had a son, he wouldn't be playing in the NFL. I got a new NFL. It's called Newfound Life. It's called the Now Forever League, because the NFL that I played in was called Niggas for Lease. They used to sell slaves, now they lease them. And that's why 78% of these brothers end up broke, not just black, white too. So once again, let's go to etymology before we leave. Before we get out of here, I want to talk about this. Look up the word black in Latin, all right? And when you look up this word black in Latin, you'll see that the word black means colorless. Now, if you take the B off of black in English, it says lack. And so the reason why we're in lack is, once again, I'm black. I'm African American. You're not either one of those, because Africa is named after a man named Africanus. Okay? I mean, Amerigo Vespucci, America, which is an Italian sailor. Africa is named after a white man named Africanus. So if you calling yourself African American, you calling yourself white. If you calling yourself black and I'm proud, you saying colorless and I'm proud. Black lives matter, colorless lives matter. Once we unlearn and relearn, once again, that we're indigenous, I seen the question come up too. You're indigenous, you're aboriginal, you're melanin. Once you start recognizing your value and stop putting into the universe things that were given to you, like we call our children kid, and the word kid means a baby goat or animal. Women you don't want to be called a B word. Why would you call your child a kid? Now, we don't think these words have a value because, oh, I didn't mean it like that. But in Spanish, the word blanco is white. En français, blanc is white. Isn't blanc and blanco closely spelled to black in English? We don't ever question these things. And it's fine. But I'm going to plant a seed to it. Just like I told you about the months, about Julius Caesar. And once you start lifting the veil on certain things, then everything else falls right there. There's something, go ahead.
I talk a little bit about the etymology of, in my book, 4 Financial Languages, right? And I explain that words matter, right? The words that we use, they trigger emotions and they come from certain things, right? That's why you can't say budget to a spender. Because of when a spender hears budget, we hear diet, die, deprivation, I can't, and so we repel everything dealing with a budget, right?
Right.
So words do matter, whether it's because of what they mean or what energy it provokes in the person. So you have to be very mindful of the words that you use, depending on the person that you use it with. Also, you have to understand the words that you're using, what they actually come from, the derivative of where they come from and why they mean what they mean and how it's been changed. The Bible has been translated so many times. At some point we got to know, is this word really this word?
Right.
Because it's been translated and it means different things in different languages. And so we have to be very important, very cognizant. And like you said, I'm not religious. I am spiritual, but it pains me to see people who will blindly follow pastors, right? That they would listen to them in church. They would take a scripture, they would create a sermon out of it, which may not even be the reference point or what that scripture means, but create a whole thing, and then people will believe it and follow it. Instead of going into the Bible to read it themselves in full context, and at some point dissecting what it truly means, not only
oh my God.
or for them.
You don't hear you, because let me tell you something. First of all, the prefix to the word scripture is script. As an actor, I read a script. When you read a script, you create certain things within this character that maybe wasn't even there, but you just created it in your own head. So we never take out the allegory in the Bible and the folklore in the Bible. When it says be fruitful and multiply, does that mean that I go lay down and have intercourse with every woman and I be fruitful and multiply? Or does that mean that I plant seeds in the minds and hearts of men? Does it mean that Adam and Eve was ADAM, or was Adam and Eve ATOM? The first atom, the first light was an atom. The prefix to evening, EVE, is dark. God took light and darkness and brought that together to make mankind. We never take it out of, without God's son, there's no way, no truth, and no life. If the SUN don't shine, you have no way because it's pitch black. And you have no truth because it's hard to see in the blind, and you have no life because nothing grows without the sun. But we never take the allegory and the folklore out of what we've been taught, because once again, we hold on to tradition and not truth.
Well, I'm going to be agitator here. I think the reason why is because a lot of people are just lazy, right? They want everything, but they don't want to work for it. You know what I'm saying? They want $1 million, but they don't want to put in the work that it takes to get the $1 million. They want the heat. They want the heat, but they don't want to put the logs in. They want the interest, but they don't want to make the deposits, right? They want the love, but they don't want to spend the time, right? So there's a lot of people that are extremely, they're lazy. There's a lot of people that want to quit their jobs because they think they can do a better job than their boss, and they want to start a business. But if the business doesn't make $1 million in the first week, they want to quit. And so that's why it's a peculiar person who is an entrepreneur that sticks through it and is successful. Steve Jobs didn't wake up, out of his garage and the next day make $9 million, have $9 billion in the bank.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It took them a long time. A tree doesn't grow when you first plant the seed.
Everybody, a lot of people use that analogy, but the hustle is real, and the grind is sold separately. You know what I'm saying? If you want to achieve a certain level of something, that's why I said at the onset that tradition is comfortable. The truth builds character, but tradition builds comfort. So if I go to the gym and I work out and I get sore, I'm just building characters for my muscles. If I read and I fall asleep and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having brain cramp. I'm just creating muscles for my brain. But this character that I had to build, it didn't come because it was easy. It came because it took some work. And I think that the sense of entitlement that we have in this day and age is something that feeds to that narrative, right? So, look, I don't have the need to be right and make others wrong. I just got the need to be righteous. And what I will leave with everyone tonight is that you may not be right in all of your thinking, but in all of your thinking, try to be right. Because when you had super put on your natural, it gives you supernatural ability to do the things you couldn't do before that ability was put on yours. All right. So today, I challenge you to not look at this pandemic as an obstacle, but just look at it as an obstacle course. That you can ebb and flow through and infiltrate and educate and liberate and vacate from it a better person, as opposed to what most people do. They infiltrate, educate, and assimilate. And whatever they say do, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna stay here in this somber, sad, dark place. Nah, the bigger your audience, the bigger your audit. And yeah, someone had a question
Yeah,
about
I'm
broke.
gonna let her come on. Patrina, if you're still on and like to show your beautiful face, go ahead and ask the question that you put in the chat so we can hear the question.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, thank you so much for being on. And Tara, thank you so much for hosting this mastermind. So I truly enjoyed you. There was one comment that you made towards the end, and I just wanted to ask your opinion on my thought. And that was what you said about the NFL. And in the line of business that I'm in, which is a personal finance expert, I find not just those in the NFL, but in many different professions that may make a lot of money, that it's not that. So what I'm finding is that because they don't have any sort of financial literacy background or information have been taught it in school or wherever have you, that's more of the reason why that they don't have money after they leave the league. Can you just elaborate or offer your thoughts on my thoughts relative to why they don't have money, but in addition to what you said?
Yeah, so I want to break something down. People always call money, time is money. They say, man, money is time and time is money. So if you look at $1 million, PK, and you take $1 million and you turn that into seconds, it's only 12 days. If you take $1 billion and turn that into seconds, it's 32 years. So imagine this football player comes out and he makes $3, $4, $5 million. If he makes $3 million, that's 36 days. If you do this math, I can run through that in 36 days if I don't have the right information. That's why I say money is not power. Education is not power, but information is power. So now, if I got $13 million in the bank and I got 13 degrees on my wall, or if I'm a dope boy and I got 13 bricks in my attic, and if I don't have the right information on what to do with it, it's gone. Right? Because the information and the lack thereof is why I say in school, they want you to be a sheep. In church, they want you to be a sheep. And look, we talked about the pastors. Most pastors stand in a pool pit. You've been pulled into a pit instead of lifted up. So once we figure out the game, man, I don't got to go spend my money with you. I don't have to have this kind of house in order to be significant. Success is based off of, okay, you got a 10,000 square foot house, so that makes you successful or significant. No, knowing that your value and your worth is intrinsic, that makes you significant. Because nobody's gonna remember you for how big your car or house was. They're gonna remember you for how you impacted their spirit, their consciousness, their ideology. As soon as we do that, we no longer have to be. As soon as we stop calling ourselves black, meaning colorless and worthless, then I don't have to go buy a car to make myself feel validated in your system, right? So now I don't have to go spend my money on that. Like I said, I'm a walking Bentley, right? So when you find out you're a walking Bentley, now, I mean, who do I have to impress? right?
Well, I think so. Well, I totally agree with you, and I'm just only because you commented and said your son, you wouldn't prefer your son to play in it, and I'm thinking as a parent, but if that's what he wants to do and feel like it's enjoyable,
Now he feel free to do that.
Yeah, going into it, understanding that you may be handed money that you aren't used to dealing with, but going into it with the knowledge, because it's all about, and we both, Tara and I are in the financial space.
So
and
let me interject here and let me answer that question as well, with complementing with what both of you are saying. One, thank you for calling yourself a personal finance expert. I appreciate that.
Came off
Good job.
Masterminds. I took that
Good
away.
job. I so appreciate that. Number two, a lot of people, we keep going around and flashing this word called financial literacy, and we think that it's financial education, right? Mm-hmm. And so the object is, if you were educated enough about money, you wouldn't make mistakes, which is not true, because just because you know better doesn't mean you do better. Because there is someone that could be very uneducated, but with the right information can make $1 million, right? I know a lot of people that do not have the degrees, did not graduate from high school or whatever, but they have the right information about the stock market, and they learned about the information and how to get information, which then they could make a better decision. That is why they made the money. I know several people with PhDs and multiple degrees that got the education. They know better. They know they need to save more and spend less, but they live in paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
So we keep flashing this word around about financial literacy, and the more that I grow into that understanding, it's bogus. It is so bogus, because it's trying to get us back into this educational system that they refuse to change, because now we are not in an industrial environment anymore, right?
That's so.
And so,
oh my God, Sarah.
When we start thinking, okay, if I don't have the degrees and I don't do this and I don't make good grades or whatever, and for kids, get your education, get the degrees, it does have value. But when you get the education without getting the information, you're gonna be a broke PhD.
That's
it. You're gonna want to go to Yale when you could have went to the community college and got the same job. Because the last time I checked, as an employer, I didn't ask them, so what college did you graduate from? I just wanted to know your degree. And if you both got a bachelor's, and one has more experience than the person from Yale, I bet you I'm gonna pay the person from a community college more.
Right.
Because it's
now your Yale degree.
Your Yale ain't worth nothing.
Yes.
Right. And you had a lot of college debt, loan debt.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, big time.
And nobody wants to have this conversation. One, because people are scared to have the conversation and agitate. Because a lot of people that went to those Ivy League colleges are going to get pissed off to realize that education is no more or no better than the one that I got from Strayer University, distance learning.
Yeah.
I'm magna cum laude.
Right.
I still got my degree.
Right.
With the fraction go ahead.
But more importantly than your degree, you have a level of self-worth outside of that degree that your value is not based just solely there.
Right.
Like as an athlete or actor or entertainer, I can't have my value just be solely based in that realm, because if I do that, now I put myself in a box. And then when you're trying to go do something else and do other things, that's why my first book was called Greater Than the Game. That just wasn't applied to the game of football. That's applied to the game of being a financial expert. That's applied to the game of me being a thought leader. I had to be greater than this game. So then I had to start learning about health. I had to start learning about economics. And I had to start learning about all these nuances that came my way if I was going to really be a thought leader, because I couldn't just be a thought leader in the form of consciousness. I had to be a thought leader in the form of economics, right? I had to be able to give somebody information that they would never hear before they heard from me. Like I told you, the FICO score came out in 1956. If people not telling you this kind of information, they want you to stay asleep. Like I'm telling you right now, they got something coming out called the Ultra FICO. It's on its way. But